not just a battle of, but also strategies. Baldnate is going the more safer, conservative route. If you've ever played this game before, you might be familiar with the major glitch he's going to be using. As LRock is just going to try to run through it as fast as he can without doing anything, without reaching any experience. Like, we're already getting started, and unfortunately, I don't know what happened to my screen, but I'm have to reset it because I can't see it. Alright, so level 1 in Double Dragon 1 is pretty straightforward. What you're throughout this level and throughout most of the game is you're really just trying to time your attacks such that you don't end up having any wasted movement. The way that you do that, principally, is to try to hit an enemy and back away, or 2 times and then back away, and then hit him 3 more times. The reason why you want to do that is because if you hit him 3 times, they'll fall straight to the ground, and that will lose a ton of time as you're waiting for them to get back up. Also worthy of mentioning is that NES has a sprite limitation, which creates a sprite limitation, which makes it so that you can't have more than 2 small enemies, more than 2 enemies on the screen at any given time from a lot of other beat-em-ups, and that you're not just get rid of swarms of enemies as they appear, but trying to perfectly time your attacks, move out of the way, and start attacking the next enemy that spawns. In this game, typically in a beat-em-up, you try to get as many enemies in the same place at the same time to destroy them as quickly as possible. You can't really do that in this game, because you'll only have 2 enemies at once, and they'll not spawn right next to each other, and it costs a lot of time to put them in the same place. Here, in level 2, LRock is just moving straight forward. Baldnate is backing up, trying to take advantage of a glitch in the game. Move to the left there on the fence. You can actually despawn both the sprite of the enemy, but you don't despawn his hitbox. So you can sit there and do a bunch of punches ahead on experience points. And that's important in this game because points you end up getting different attacks. The difference between LRock is doing what Baldnate is doing is that Baldnate is falling deliberately behind very early in the game, behind LRock, but then as the game progresses, if everything goes well, Baldnate's he should be able to get back a fair amount of that time. Not necessarily all of it. As far as we know, strategies that LRock is using are much, but possibly much quicker, especially if we're talking about task terms, and trying to get early experience, getting the early strong hits game. Even there in level 2, Baldnate's going to get a fair amount of that time back. About 10 to 12 seconds he should be getting back if he hits everything correctly. Even on the boss, because the strategy that he will be using, which is over the ledge, is very different from what you just saw LRock do when he tried to use the push technique a few times in the game. Basically, there's a AI where they back up just slightly to get you out of their sprite and into the range of their hit, just correctly to the right or to the left, and they'll move along with you. very difficult, trying part of the game. These two Abobos are, again, one of the few enemies you'd like to stack, although they're not very cooperative. Having some difficulty. That's pretty standard. There's hardly a run you'll ever see in Double Dragon 1 where those Abobos are just a clean fight. You expect a certain window of time loss. See Baldnate gaining on LRock a little bit as he's just starting to approach the Abobo fight. That leads, well, we'll have to see. Anything can happen in this game. There's some RNG that unfortunately can just completely wipe you out towards the end of the game, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Who are watching right now, I'm having a lot of trouble watching the direct feed of the race. So if it sounds like I'm not talking too much about what's happening on screen, that's the reason. I don't know why it is, but before stream I was able to load it fine. And so I'm actually right now having to watch the RGLtv stream in order to get an idea of where they actually are. The live feeds are kind of coming in and out for me. They're both in the cave. LRock is still a good amount ahead. Necessarily out of it at this point. Well, is the longest level in the entire game, and although it looks straightforward, a lot of things can go wrong. Little things like, you've already seen LRock pass them, but Baldnate's trying to fight them. You have to kind of fight them just one-on-one, and the enemies will oftentimes duck under your attacks. Having early XP, the way that Baldnate has, is that very often you can just obliterate an enemy with an elbow, but then they'll also duck it. So the fastest possible way to get through a lot of these areas is by using that elbow. You have to the enemies have to let you cooperate, and LRock does a fine job of getting rid of those green Abobos by using the push technique that I explained earlier. Seeing a pretty clean run for most of these guys, for the most part, from both of these guys. That is, going into it is what life sacrifices that we'll see. There are a couple of places where you can deliberately lose lives to save time. Feel they might do them or not do them as we come along. And I have to apologize. I wish I could explain them as we went along, but I am definitely, in terms of what I'm seeing on screen compared to what you all are seeing. I apologize for that. It's kind of unforeseen events. Both of these guys at this point are well into level 4. All that Baldnate is now trying to get through, that is completely random. There are some patterns that you can learn for it, but ultimately you just will as to whether or not it will let you through, or it will kill you, and it can destroy a speedrun. One of the reasons why in a marathon setting like this, you would really not want to use sacrifice strat for the RNG. This is as quickly as it feels like it started. LRock is already almost in the final part of the entire game. There is, as he climbs up to the top of this platform right here, this jump where if you can just jump on that ledge as it's first coming down and then jump over, you don't see the LRock going for it here. Very, very hard. Frame perfect, but it feels like it. Jump on the platform, then jump over to the right. If you fail, you usually just have another chance to jump right back on it. LRock took the safe route. Probably has a good enough idea of how ahead he is at this point. section of the game. This is another area where if you can use the elbow on these guys, but the RNG usually won't let that happen. You thought the game was hard up until this point with the crazy platforming and the slight randomness of the enemies throwing you off. Wrong, and this is where you'll get just smacked around. As you can see, LRock is going through right now to take down these Zabobos. Fight. It looks like it's the easiest thing in the world, but oh my goodness, and he loses a life. There are no extra lives in this game. LRock has to do this right now on his last life, the hardest section of the game. He has to fight a number of different type enemies, and then he has a mini boss, and he has to do it all in one life. I tell you, I would not want to be in this position right now, but if he can do this, he will have earned himself a win in this race. Far behind at this point, but if LRock dies, well, that's it. He can pretty much take his time, and as long as he makes it through, he can win this. Finally makes some good progress. It's possible to kill most of those enemies just as the door is opening. Elbow is the strongest attack in this game. And to last, the entire game, Machine Gun Willie, infamously, if you don't line him up just right, he will shoot you. That machine gun, it's very hard to avoid, and it does a lot of damage. In the best position, but he's still in it at this point. I'm a little nervous for him, to be honest with you. Oh no, there he goes. GG, LRock. Sorry that it went that way for you. It's still not a guarantee that Baldnate's going to win. It's very possible he could die. If he dies at any point in time before the final boss, whole section over again. As actually just happened right as I'm saying this. This race really comes down to whether or not Baldnate can finish with one life, and we're all rooting for you, Baldnate. You can't hear me, but when you watch this in the VOD, I'm crazy right now, cheering for you. Just to mention again, sorry for repeating myself over and over again, I'm still at a disadvantage in that I can't see the live stream. It's coming up, okay. I can see him, Machine Gun Willie, and he takes the safer strat of walking all the way down to the bottom of the screen. It doesn't always work out this way. There's a possibility if you walk to the bottom of the screen, when Machine Gun Willie walks down to you, he's misaligned, and he can't shoot bullets at you. He'll shoot you, but they won't hit you. That was on the final boss. Health, given that all he has to do is beat Jimmy. Position here, what you want to do, you can already see it happening, you kick him twice and then you turn around and do an elbow. Just repeat over and over and over again until he runs out of health. Is difficult because he can attack very quickly and he does a lot of damage. He's very trolly with his patterns, but he's doable, especially with a speedrunner like Baldnate, who's played this game a lot. That Jimmy does, as you can see him right now, he's doing a bunch of flying kicks, which by your ability to follow any pattern, but Baldnate is doing very well with his timing attacks. We should be seeing any moment now, as long as he doesn't take another several hits. There we go, GG Baldnate. So Baldnate is the winner of this race, principally because the game gave LRock a very difficult time, and LRock also took a difficult route. Of two different, kind of like the tortoise and the hare. Baldnate took the you get behind quickly in the beginning, but you end up with abilities that keep you safer and make it easier for a race. And in this instance, doesn't always work out this way, but in this instance, Baldnate was the winner. So congratulations very much to Baldnate. I tell you, unfortunately, I did have the problem of the video kicking in and out, but I enjoyed what I saw of the race, and I hope that everyone else had as much